In this video, we're going to be looking at section 4.2. And in 4.2, we're looking at proportions. So a proportion is a statement that two ratios are equal. So in symbols, A over B is equal to C over D is a proportion. And that is assuming that B and D cannot equal 0. We're not allowed to have 0 in the bottom of fractions in math. So if that statement is true, if in fact A over B is equal to or is the same value as C over D, then their cross products, A times D and B times C, are equal. To solve a proportion, so given a proportion A over B is equal to C over D, when one of the numbers is unknown, we are going to find the cross products or cross multiply and set the cross products equal to each other. Then we will divide both sides of the equation by the number that is multiplying by the variable or that unknown piece of the problem. And of course, we need to simplify our answer if possible. So let's take a look at an example. Find the value of x if 4 over 8 is equal to 5 over x. Now this one you might be able to tell what the answer should be just by using a little brain power. So if we look at 4 out of 8 or 4 over 8, that tells me that we have 1/2 or 1 out of 2 because 4 times 2 is 8. So here we should have a fraction that's equal to 1/2 as well. And so 5 is half of 10. So we should get x is equal to 10. But let's show that or prove that using this cross product or how to solve problems when it's not so obvious to us what the answer is. So in cross multiplication, we're going to take the top of one fraction and multiply it by the bottom of the other fraction. So it's like we're drawing a big X across the equal sign. And so if these are truly equal, then 4 times X is the same amount as 8 times 5, or 5 times 8. Either way you want to write that. Order does not matter in multiplication. So you can see we can simplify on the right-hand side. We can do 8 times 5. So we're going to put 4 times x is equal to 40. And in our process, that was that first step, to cross multiply and set the products equal to each other. Then the step 2 is divide both sides by the number that's being multiplied by the variable. That's actually called the coefficient. So we're going to get rid of this 4 since 4 has been multiplied to x. To undo multiplication, we're going to divide it off. So that means we need to divide it off the other side as well, or we are not going to have the equation stay balanced. 4 divided by 4 is 1, so we're canceling those out. And so all we have left on that side is x. And let's simplify the right, which simplifying is step 3. 40 over 4, or 40 divided by 4 is 10. And there's that 10 that we knew was the answer. So here's a problem now for you to try. Find the value of x to make the proportion 12 over x equals 9 over 15 true. So go ahead and set up your problem using the cross multiplication or cross products and solve. So pause the video and do that now. And then when you're finished, unpause it and check your work. You may have noticed that I like to put the number that is across from the variable on my left-hand side. And so I have 9x equals 12 times 15. But if you did 15 times 12 equals x times 9, or any combination of ways of setting it up, as long as you have the numbers that are across from each other together and are able to solve it correctly, then show your work however makes sense to you. X equals 20 for this one. So sometimes we're going to get story problems where we can use this to solve. So we're going to first identify the unknown quantity, and we'll use a variable such as x to represent this unknown quantity. And then you'll set up a proportion in which the units are compared in the same order. Again, make sure you're setting up your proportions in the same fashion. And helping you do that will be labeling the numbers so you can double check that they're in the right order. And then you can solve the proportion that you've created. Let's take a look at some true-false statements, and again, fix the ones that are false so we can make them true. A proportion is a statement that two ratios are being multiplied. What do you think? Well, if we look back at what we had A over B is equal to C over D. Yes, we multiplied to solve it through the cross products. However, we are saying that the two ratios are equal. So the way they worded this is false. Number 2, cross-canceling is used to determine if a proportion is true. Canceling means to cross off. When we did that, we did A times D is equal to B times C. So canceling is not the right word again. So we have false there. What we ended up doing is multiplying. So cross multiplying, or the fancy word for multiplying is product. So using the cross product to see if they were true or not. And so for 3, in order to solve the proportion, 6 is to 36.8 as x is to 27.6, we construct the equation 36.8 x is equal to 441.6. So our 36.8 is across from x, so that checks. And then we have 16 across from 27.6. So type that in your calculator to see if you get 441.6. Good, you did. So that means this is a true statement. They set it up the right way. And all we would have to do to get x by itself would be divide both sides by that 36.8, that number in front of our x, which in math is called the coefficient. Let's look at a couple more true-false statements. When using proportions to solve a word problem, there is only one correct way to set up the proportion. Well, let's pause that for a second because number 5 has 2 different ways of setting up a proportion. So let's examine that before we answer number 4. The proportion 36 tickets is to $540 as X tickets is $75 is the same as, or will yield the same answer as, X tickets to 36 tickets is equal to $75 to $540. So we know to solve, we would cross multiply. So for the first one, we would have 36 times 75 is equal to 540 times x, or I would set that proportion up if I was actually solving it. 540 times x is equal to 36 times 75. So let's see when it's across from each other here. Here's our x, so we go across and we do get 540 just like we did up here. And then we have our 75 being across from our 36 like we did. So yes, when we solve, we end up getting the same numbers being multiplied to each other on the same side of the equal sign. So that makes number 4 false. So there is more than one correct way to set up the proportion. And then the other two ways would be simply flipping them around, putting money over tickets for the first one, and here having the larger amount over the smaller amount. So 36 over x and 540 over 75. So here's a couple problems for you to check. First, determine through cross product if these proportions are true. So is, in this case, 3 times 8, the same value as 6 times 4. And then for 8 and 9, go ahead and cross multiply and solve. Pause the video while you do that, and then resume when you're ready to check your answers. Okay, there you go. If you need help with any of those, don't hesitate to email me. Let's take a look at what these types of problems could look like in story problems. The quality of concrete is based on the ratio of bags of cement to cubic yards of gravel. One batch of concrete consists of 27 bags of cement mixed with 9 cubic yards of gravel, while a second has 15 bags of cement mixed with 5 cubic yards of gravel. Determine whether the ratio of cement to gravel is the same for both batches. So one batch here we have 27, which represents cement, and 9, which represents gravel. So we'll have 27 bags of cement, and I'll label it with a C, over 9 cubic yards of gravel. So let's put a G there. And now let's look at the second scenario. While a second has 15 bags of cement, since we put cement on the top of our first ratio, we'll have to put 15 on the top of the second, since that represents the bags of cement. And then our cubic yards of gravel is 5 for the second scenario. So we'll have 5 of gravel. And so now we need to see if that is true or not. So again, if this is a true statement, then their cross products will be the same amount. And so let's take a look at that. Is 15 times 9 the same as 27 times 5? So 15 times 9 is 135. And then 27 times 5 also gives us 135. So yes, they are the same. The ratios match. An English teacher must read and grade 27 essays. If the teacher takes 20 minutes to read and grade 3 essays, how much time will he need to grade all 27 essays? See what you think. Go ahead and pause the video and set up a proportion, and then unpause it and check that much, and then go ahead and pause it again to solve it, and unpause it to check your work. I gotta love my beautiful writing with this mouse pad. Anyway, we have 20 minutes is to 3 essays, as we don't know how much time. I chose to use a T. You could have used X or any other variable you want, but T for me represents time, is out of 27 total essays. So hopefully you got that correct, and if you didn't, you see what you did wrong. So pause and solve. Okay, you should have done 3 times t is the same as 20 times 27. And so 20 times 27 is 540. So 3t equals 540. And then dividing both sides by 3, 540 divided by 3 is 80 minutes. So the time that it'll take the teacher is 180 minutes, which is 3 hours. Okay, so now think about this. Clarify or describe how you know that a proportion is set up correctly. Take a minute and jot your ideas down while you pause the video, and then you can look and see what I said. And then if you need to add anything to your ideas, go ahead. The way I explained it is a proportion has been set up correctly if the same units are in the same location in both ratios. So for example, with our cement example, I had cement is to gravel as cement is to gravel. So cement was in the top of my proportions or the numerators, and the gravel information was in the denominator and the bottom portion of my proportions. So that's it for this lesson. If you have any difficulties with your homework, don't hesitate to let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.